All right, folks, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, as always, including a possible deal for Ukraine to give some minerals and all along those lines. Because I did see that in the news reports and things along those lines, some rare earth minerals that apparently the deal is already in place, according to President Trump, and all along those lines. But we're going to see what folks have to say about that. Israel is moving troops to the Gaza border after Hamas postpones a hostage release, and Trump threatens all hell is going to break out if Hamas delays hostage release. So definitely Hamas says it will delay the release of more hostages, putting the Gaza ceasefire at risk. And this was reported yesterday. And like I said, there is that ultimatum that is out there as well. And yesterday, as we said, Trump did announce those 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports. So he has also restored Section 232 tariffs and all along those lines. So the tariff war is continuing as well. And it looks like a trio of storms are threatening nearly every weather hazard, including life-threatening debris flows in LA fire burned area as well. So we might be finding out about that from Rick and seeing what that's all about as well. But definitely, it looks like a lot is taking place in the world, and looks like John Bolton is talking about the expansion into Greenland on NPR, and of course there are other expansions as well. And Vance warns Europeans that heavy regulation could kill AI. So Vance, in his first foreign speech, tells the U.S. tells Europe that U.S. will dominate AI, and Vance rips excessive AI regulation at the Paris summit. So that's something else going on as well. And Trump's proposal for Gaza entangles Arab allies. So Trump's Gaza relocation proposal sparks heated debate among Palestinians. No life left here is one of the quotes. And Trump says he could withhold aid to Jordan and to Egypt if they don't take in the Palestinians. So definitely that's something that's going on as well. And a rare deep sea anglerfish or anglerfish is seen for the first time in broad daylight. So the video shows a black sea devilfish, usually found only in lightless depths of the sea, making a rare swim near the ocean surface. So the deep sea fish makes a surprise appearance near the ocean's surface. And that's something else that people are talking about as well. And Zelensky must lower mobilization age to win Western support, according to Bloomberg. And can European boots on the ground help protect Ukraine's security? So that's something else that people are looking at as well. And protesters blocked the Tel Aviv highway, demanding Israel not endanger the hostage deal. So we do see some protesters in that space. And more than 50 are dead after a bus plunged into a gorge in Guatemala. So the bus plunged off the bridge in Guatemala City, killing at least 53. And that is a sad occasion there in that particular country and all along those lines. So, like I said, a lot's going on in the world. And of course, the AI summit is a major conversation. And Prime Minister Modi out of India is pitching for a global framework for AI, and Macron promoted France's electric-powered AI. So definitely that's something else that is going on. And apparently India will be happy to host the next AI Action Summit. So India is trying to play some roles in that as well. And Egypt tells U.S. top diplomat Rubio that the Arab states reject Trump's Gaza plan. So Egypt planning an emergency Arab summit on Palestinian territory as Trump insists U.S. own Gaza. So Egypt Sisi urged Gaza reconstruction without displacing the Palestinians. So that's something else that we're seeing as well. And Ecuador's presidential runoff will test the influence of former President Correa. So that's something else that we'll see as the Ecuador president faces runoff after falling short in their reelection bid. Socialist leader nears power after tapping Ecuador voter anger. So there's voter anger all over the world, including in Ecuador. So that's something else we're seeing as well. And the UN suspends humanitarian work in Yemeni area over Houthi hold more staff. So definitely that's something we're seeing as well. And most of the world's big polluters just blew off a major climate deadline. So almost all nations missed the UN deadline for new climate targets. So that's something else that's out there as well. And only one big economy is aiming for Paris's 1.5 Celsius goal. So apparently 95% of the countries missed the UN deadline to submit their 2035 climate pledges. So that's something else going on. And of course, we're having electric issues in the Baltic states. So the Baltic states are conversations of three Baltic states disconnect from the Soviet area grid to merge with the European energy system. And those nations cut ties to Russia's power grid, preparing to link with the EU. And in South Korea, a teacher fatally stabbed an 8-year-old in Daejeon. So, an 8-year-old student dies after being stabbed by an elementary school teacher, and all in that space. And of course, there is still that war in Eastern Congo that is escalating amid international hesitancy. So, days of mass burials ahead, as that was reported several days back, as Congo mourns its dead in Goma. So that's something that's going on in terms of conflicts as well. And more than 175 World War II practice bombs were found at a playground in England. So dozens of World War II bombs unearthed at a children's playground in northern England, and that was in a playground setting. I can only imagine what parents would be thinking about that, since that would be very scary. I'm thinking they can't be detonated, but I don't know that. And if they can be detonated, that would be a very frightful kind of situation. And apparently there's a first lawsuit targeting Trump's foreign aid freeze. So judge rules that Trump's administration defied orders to unfreeze the billions in federal grants. So the court blocked Trump's federal funding freeze and agencies are withholding money anyway. So we'll see how this all plays out. And Trump demands $500 billion in rare earths from Ukraine for continued support. So Ukraine may be Russian someday, Trump says, ahead of a Vance-Zelensky meeting. So definitely that's still going on. And apparently he's trying to work out a deal in that space. And Johnson's new budget plan and the Democrats' shutdown dilemma. So Democrats step up talks about using shutdown as a leverage against Trump. So Senator Andy Kim says he's open to shutting down the government if Trump continues dismantling agencies. So that's something else that we're seeing as well. So like I said, a lot's going on, including one dead as a jet owned by the Motley Crue singer collides with a plane in Arizona. So video shows Vance Neal's jet crashing into a parked plane, killing the pilot and injuring the rocker's girlfriend. So that's something going on in terms of plane safety. And like I said to some friends of mine not that long ago, maybe kissing the green works, because there is a push to drop Adams charges, and it reveals a Justice Department under Trump's sway. So Justice Department official orders prosecutors to drop the charges against the New York City mayor. And New York City Mayor Eric Adams is to speak after the DOJ calls for corruption charges were dropped. So definitely it looks like he might not have to face those legal issues after all. So that's something else that we're seeing as well. And a federal judge has blocked Trump from slashing NIH funding in 22 states suit. So the federal judge expands the block on Trump administration efforts to cut public health funding. So the pharmaceutical industry is heading into Elon Musk wood chipper. So we'll see what goes on in that space. And it definitely looks like a lot of things are going on, including the Gulf of America name change, now official in the U.S. and on the Google Maps. So Google Maps changes the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America for U.S. users. If you're coming from another country, I guess you can still call it the Gulf of Mexico, but we'll see what goes on in that space. And Nancy Mace is accusing the AG she may face in GOP primary of not prosecuting men that she says need prosecuting. So Nancy Mace accuses her ex-fiance and associates of rape and abuse in a House speech, and Mace takes to the House floor with charges of rape and sexual predation. So she doubled down as ex-fiance Patrick Bryant rubbishes sexual assault allegations and all along those lines. And Defense Secretary Hedges brings back the Fort Bragg name with a different namesake. So Secretary of Defense Pete Hedges renames Fort Liberty to Fort Roland L. Bragg. So it looks like the name has been changed back to Fort Bragg, but with a twist. So that's something else going on as well. So like I said, a lot's going on, including in Maryland Mayor Bowser declaring a snow emergency beginning at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, February 11th. And I was just talking to one of our hosts here on the network, a co-host, that being the lady that works with Barbara H. Smith, Shawnee Smith, and she was saying that up there in Delaware, they are expecting some snow around, I think she said 5:30 or something like that. And Trump has pardoned former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, and definitely that's something going on, as he was a former Illinois governor who tried to sell Obama's vacated Senate seat, but he has been pardoned and all along those lines. So we might get some other news as well, as apparently Trump pauses the enforcement of foreign bribery law. So he's paused that enforcement and all along those lines. But right now I'm going to get to the folks that are here. It's just me and Rick right now, and we'll see if anybody else shows up. But how's it going, Rick? A lot's going on, including some crazy weather in your neck of the woods and crazy weather all over the world and everything like that. So how is life treating you and all in that?
It's okay. I've only got half a brain right now. I've only got one contact lens in, so generally that makes me a little bit more out of it.
Definitely. Well, Trump's still doing his various things, and apparently he's going to give some. I was hoping Sasha would be here, and maybe we'll find out from you. But it looks like he's going to be getting some rare earth and a whole lot of rare earth from Ukraine and everything like that. So it ought to be fascinating to see what happens in this space and all along those lines. But it does look like there's going to be some rare earth coming to the U.S. I guess I know rare earth is oftentimes needed for things like NVIDIA and chips and things like that. So I guess we're maneuvering that space. And I guess Vance is over there overseas saying that we need to be leaders in AI and that the U.S. will be at the forefront of AI, even though I guess Prime Minister Modi is saying that he wants the next AI summit to be in his country and in his part of the world. So what's your take on these notions of AI, as well as your take on what's going on in the wars? Because there's several wars. It looks like even the Hamas-Israel thing might be threatened as well.
So I talk with AI, every few days just to check in, and AI keeps getting smarter, and also it gets better at bullshitting you and making you, like, there are friendly AIs like Claude and DeepSeek who, when you talk with them, they flatter you. They repeat your ideas back. They paraphrase your ideas. They say them back to you, and they say good idea. So it's like having a friend who just backs you up in everything. So it makes you want to think that they are smart. And they're not that smart, but they're not that dumb anymore either. And I think that by the 2030s, whether you design AI to have consciousness or not, you will have AI that might as well be conscious. So right now, these AIs are large language models, which is you just shovel all these words into them, all these writing by people, and then it spits writing back out at you using probability engines. But our brains do the same thing. When somebody says to you, "How are you doing?" You don't do a lot of conscious thought. You just go, "I'm fine." So that's your brain set up the highest probability response to how you doing is fine. And sometimes that's not the right answer. You're at the doctor. The doctor goes, "How you doing?" And the doctor wants you to actually think about it consciously. So, but most of the time you're kind of on autopilot. So in that way, we're not that much different from AI. And one more thing quickly is multimodality. Our consciousness is based on, we get information from all of our senses, plus some things that we don't even consider senses. Like there's a thing called proprioception, where you're aware of how your limbs are, whether you're like this or what, which is, it's kind of anyway, you get all this feedback from your brain, collects all this information from all your head holes, information through here, through here, and it throws them all together in your awareness, along with memories and judgments about what is this good for me, is this bad for me, and you've got all these like little sub voices like chiming in to build your consciousness. And AI doesn't have much of that, but it's starting to get that. Like in with like Chat GPT, it's not just words anymore; it's images.
Mm-hmm.
And the more all this stuff gets integrated, the more that AI is going to start falling into, behaviors that are closer to consciousness.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. AI is a big part of the education conversation as well. And one of the other articles that I didn't get to, and definitely love to hear your thoughts. And if Kim and Nick ever make it here, I'd love to hear their thoughts as well, since it's part of the reason that the network was formed, from my understanding and everything, is this notion of the kids here in the U.S. falling behind and everything. So it says that American kids are still behind in reading and math. And of course, there's conversations around students struggling to recover from COVID learning loss. But there are surprisingly some schools that are bucking the trend, and some of them are actually surprising areas and everything like that. Because one of the articles that I was reading from earlier today was talking about a school in your neck of the woods in California, ironically in Compton, because they said that the math is the subject sixth grader Harmona Knight finds hardest, but that's changing. In class tutors and data charts at her middle school in Compton, California, have made a dramatic difference, the 11-year-old said, and she proudly pulled up a performance tracker at a tutoring session last week, displaying a column of perfect 100% scores on all her weekly quizzes from January. And since the pandemic first shuttered American classrooms, schools have poured federal and local relief money into intervention like the ones in this particular student's class, hoping to help students catch up academically following the COVID-19 disruptions. But analysis of state and national test scores show the average students remain half a grade level behind their pre-pandemic achievements in both reading and math. In reading especially, students are even further behind than they were in 2022, but there are surprisingly some cities that are doing better, because apparently in Compton, they improved over 1.5 grade level in math, and that's a difference between the city's math scores and the 2019 national average in grade level. So they said Compton is an outlier. We know it can be an outlier in other things as well, making some of the biggest two-year gains in both subjects, among the highest among high poverty districts. And those are bright spots, along with evidence that intervention like tutoring and summer programs actually work and everything. So I don't know.
So it's a matter of priorities. It's and social pressure,
right,
where like if we had a social media aptitude test that, and he gave it to kids, like who, like somebody writes you this sends you, DMs you this on your phone. What do you write back? Like if there were an SAT for that, American kids would do great, because that's what we're focused on. Like East Asian kids, kids in East Asia, like there is like crazy pressure in some countries like South Korea, Taiwan, to like, I don't know if it's still happening. I assume it is. There's huge pressure for those kids to score well on aptitude tests for U.S. colleges, like the SAT. There was an East Asian country about 8 years ago where they had to throw out all the SAT scores because there was a national cheating scandal. Yeah. And which means that those people are crazy for performance, that there's a lot of that. And so, and in the US, we have a lot of fun. We watch, we're not, there's not, for good and bad, there's not as much pressure on US kids as there may be in other countries.
That makes a lot of sense. Speaking of things that are not so much controversial, but they're interesting and all along those lines, and I definitely love to hear your thoughts around this and everything. But I know that she was at odds, and there was even talk of them being fighting each other and everything like that. But apparently Representative Nancy Mace, the Republican from South Carolina, spoke behind closed door meeting of House Republicans on Capitol Hill last year, and Democrats and reproductive rights groups are seizing on a recent ruling by the Alabama Supreme Court that plunges the future of access to in vitro fertilization, or IVF, into uncertainty, hoping the controversial move will help motivate voters this year. And Mace, who said she opposed abortion, but believes her party has been out of step with most Americans in its push for restrictions, was critical of the Alabama ruling. And like I said, I know her and Jasmine Crockett. I know her and Jasmine Crockett haven't been the best of fans and everything, but apparently on Monday, she used a nearly hour-long speech on the U.S. House floor to accuse her ex-fiance of physically abusing her, recording sex acts with her and others without their consent, and conspiring with business associates in acts of rape and sexual misconduct.
So Nancy Mace, both recently and farther in the past, may have been the victim of sexual assault and other forms of abuse. But Nancy Mace has been getting increasingly unhinged. And, Twitter calls her an attention whore, which may not be the best characteristic, but she does stuff like, for instance, 7 years ago, she claimed that Antifa spray painted the sidewalk in front of her house, and if you look at there is no Antifa. It's not like a club that people can join. It's just a kind of a name for people who are, anyway, there's no organization called Antifa. And when you looked at the spray paint attack in front of her house, it was in her handwriting. So it's likely that she spray painted her own house. And she's done other crazy crap, like she showed up, she's got big boobs, and she showed up to Congress wearing a tight T-shirt with the scarlet letter A about something, said she'd been labeled with the scarlet letter, but people were like, yeah, this is more a look at your boobs moment. And she is, and she called, there's a trans member of Congress, and she called that member a tranny 3 times, maybe more than 3 times. And tranny is the N word, or it's a bad word for trans people. It's like
the N word and like some other words and everything like that. I see we got Jatovia. I think Jan was trying to join us, but that being said, Jatovia, I was saying that apparently she went all out. I mean, in Nancy Mason, I know she's part of the MAGA group in some ways and everything, against women being abused and everything, in a speech yesterday, because she said she was speaking out because her home state's top prosecutor didn't take action even after she alerted investigators, and the same prosecutor is likely to be her opponent if she runs for governor of the state below us, South Carolina, in 2026, which she is considering. And she said she even said she was going scorched earth and everything, detailing how in November of 2023 she accidentally uncovered some of the most heinous crimes against women imaginable. And we're talking about rape, non-consensual photos, non-consensual videos of women and underage girls, and the premeditated, calculated exploitation of women and girls in her district. And she mentioned those 4 men being involved, including the Charleston area businessman, Patrick Bryant, who was her fiance, and it definitely went door to door stumping for her in her re-election campaign. So what is your take on this? Because I know even Kim, who's one of the founders of the network, talks about women being abused and things like that. And it is a issue that people need to be concerned about. But is it a real case in her case, or is this a case of somebody that is a attention-seeking person trying to get attention using this hot button topic and everything like that? Because she definitely, apparently on Monday, she was joined in the House gallery by several women she said had been victimized by Bryant and the other man. And looks like there were some Republican lawmakers who sat behind her to show their support and everything like that, including Lauren Boebert out of Colorado and Annie Paulina Luna out of Florida. But I just wanted your take on this, and that this is a legitimate concern, or we also know this is the same woman that was ready to have a smackdown fight with Crockett.
She voted Trump, right?
Yeah.
She voted Pete Hegseth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Lauren Boebert gave a hand job in front of kids in a play, right?
She was not a full-on dick out of the pants, but a pants rubbing job.
So basically, your question to me is, is it show that a woman who voted for these individuals, that she's now campaigning against the actual acts that these individuals? Yeah, that should answer your question. It's all for show. I mean,
we don't know what actual trauma Nancy Mace suffered.
I mean,
but she's getting increasingly like discombobulated and wild in her behaviors and accusations. And
like I said, for me, you cannot say that you are all for women, and she had trauma in her past. You can't claim to be all for women and all this rah women this, rah women this, when you legitimately have a chance to do that with a vote, with a campaign, and you vote against what you're rah-rahing about, and you campaign against what you rah-rahing about. Yeah, that just tells me it's all for show.
She's also, in her past, she's also been a badass. She was the first woman to make it through the Citadel and graduate, which was formerly an all-male military academy. And just to make it through there, she had to be super tough and undergo all sorts of, I would assume non-sexual brutality, just hazing. And you got to respect her for that. But in recent years and months, she just has been getting really squirrely.
Well, go ahead.
That's the thing. You can't, I mean, for some odd reason, we want to give her this. This is where I guess the whole double standard thing happens. I mean, we want to give a blanket for, Nancy Mace because, she's rah-rahing this. She legitimately voted for a dude who did what she's now supposedly for. Nah.
Well, speaking of that, switching the topic just slightly, a couple of things I want to get to both of you on and everything, but the Pope has rebuked the Trump administration over migrant deportations, and definitely that was in a letter to U.S. bishops, and the Pope Francis told U.S. bishops that Trump's immigration policy will end badly and everything like that. So what is our thoughts around, one, the Pope getting involved in this conversation and everything, and do we agree that he is correct that this whole deportation thing will end badly and all along those lines? Because I do know that sometimes, having gone to a Jesuit university, the Catholics will sometimes bring their thoughts and attitudes into the conversation, but apparently the Pope is saying that this is going to end very badly and all along those lines. So what is your take on the Pope's declaration on this particular situation?
The Pope, as popes go, he's a great Pope. He's a good Pope. He comes out in favor of a lot of he's not dickish stuff. He's in favor, he's okay with gays. Much more so than other popes. At the same time, he's the head of a church that has a many centuries long history of letting priests diddle kids. He's not perfect on that, but he's better than most of the previous popes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense and everything. Sasha, you've joined us. Glad you've joined us here as well. I know one of the things that you sometimes talk about is what's going on, not just in Ukraine, but I definitely got a question for you about that very shortly, but also other parts of the world, whether it is Israel and Hamas or whether it is South Africa. And apparently one of the things that is out there is that Trump is saying some white South Africans are oppressed and could be resettled in the U.S. Apparently a couple of days ago, many of them said no thanks and everything. So Trump's accusation against South Africa is sparking white privilege self-mockery, and apparently the South Africans are mocking Trump's proposal, saying it's ridiculous and lame, even though there is some history of racist land inequality in that particular part of the world and everything. But what is our take on this notion of allowing white South Africans to come in to this area? Either one of you.
Just quickly, Trump's work wife, Elon Musk, is a white South African. So that's probably where some of that comes.
Well, finish that, Rick. You didn't finish it because Sasha is actually good at finishing it too. That white South African who came out of apartheid.
Yeah, his Musk's
And
parents have a very bad history of being pro-apartheid and maybe even worse.
and
They're
and now we have Elon Musk. Well, I'm sorry, Trump pushing now apartheid in South Africa. We're coming full
Let me
circle.
go a little bit farther than that. His grandparents, they were leaders of the Nazi Party of Canada before they moved to South Africa. So the background is extremely strong of fascist tendencies of all his families. And the book, which was published in English in US by Werner von Braun, about it's a half fictional book about colonization of Mars. And that's it was a table book in Musk's family. So he was obviously followed not only the book, his name came from that book because the leader of the colony, Mars colonizators, his name was Ellen. And Ellen was not only his name, but it was a title as well. It's leader of this tribe that moved from Earth to Mars. Anyway, enough about Musk.
no. Hold on one sec, because let's connect the dots. So Werner von Braun, a Nazi scientist who used Jewish slave labor to build rockets to blow up London, was taken by the US at the end of World War II because he was a good scientist who knew rocketry. So we're like, all right, we're going to forget that you were a Nazi and we're going to have you run the US space program.
Which he did.
Yeah, so Musk's parents had this book by this Nazi about the exploration of Mars, and they named their kid after the kid from the Nazis' book, or the explorer in the Nazis' book.
Yeah, that's what I know that Sasha brought
And
that up.
one more thing is Musk has a hot mom. Mae Musk has been a model. Like, she's a good-looking lady, even at whatever her age is, and because she looks, like a nice, sweet, hot mom. It might trick you into ignoring that she has fascist tendencies.
That can be happening sometimes. I did have a question about something that I think Sasha came up with the coin term, and other people on the network a couple of times and everything. It apparently appears, and I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts around this, that kissing the ring works and everything, because as I mentioned in the news brief, and I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts around this, because he came out, I guess, in some ways supporting Trump, that there is now going to be an effort to drop all the charges against the New York City mayor and everything like that. So apparently he got a call from the Department of Justice saying that they will drop these corruption charges and all along those lines. And apparently he did go and meet with Trump and everything like that. So is this going to be the case where we're just going to see people that are willing to kiss the ring, to borrow Sasha's phrase, that are going to get off no matter what the charges might be? And I don't know how tight the charges were and how solid a case they had, but it does seem like talking to Trump got them to drop the charges in one of the major cities.
Straight up, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what people are going to do. They have a very solid case against Eric Adams. Eric Adams went to kiss the ring. The actual push from the DOJ is extremely political, from what they sent out, saying that this case has to be dropped. It was something to the effect of, this case has to be dropped so that Eric Adams can focus on being mayor of New York. Mm-hmm. That makes absolutely no sense, because that means that anybody in any position of power can actually say the same exact thing and why they should not be charged. So the DOJ's push is just ridiculous. So the interesting thing is, will the charges actually get dropped? If you do it based on what he said, then expect a lot of people to go with the same excuse, and we're going to have basically kangaroo courts. Trump is already pushing that he doesn't want to abide by judges' rulings. It's just, yeah,
he didn't do just Eric Adams. He pardoned Rod
The guy from
Blagojevich.
Illinois, right?
Yeah, this is a guy who went to prison. So Obama leaves the Senate to run for president. So there's a vacant Senate seat, and was he the governor, I guess, of Illinois? Yeah,
Yeah.
and
He was the governor.
he auctioned off Obama's the appointment to the Senate. He got money for it, I think. He went to prison for it. This is back in, I think he went to prison in 2011. Trump just pardoned him, and doesn't he want to make Blagojevich an ambassador or some crap?
Yep. But even worse, and this ties into the Rod Blagojevich thing, because as you pointed out, he tried to use his political power and basically sell a seat. He was basically bribing people for the seat. So there was another executive order or another ban that they removed, which is that companies are now allowed to bribe foreign entities or foreign countries, which was a law that was put in, but now they're taking that away. So now if you take an ambassador who's well versed in bribery, send him overseas, all he wants is money. So now he's going to be able to bribe anyone and everyone he wants to, because there's no restrictions on it. So this is where we are.
Speaking of where we are and everything, I mean, I've wondered about this, and this is for you, Rick, and everything. Like I said, I watched The Floor yesterday, and it's hosted by Rob Lowe, and I think you talked a couple of times about Marcia Stewart and everything. So if you are of a certain class and a certain kind of Hollywood celebrity, I guess it doesn't matter what your crimes in the past were, because like I said, Rob Lowe is hosting The Floor, and Marcia Stewart seems to have done quite well, despite having spent time in prison. I think maybe even Rob Lowe spent time in prison for the sex scandal and for, I want to say, even a murder that was committed way back.
Wait, Rob Lowe? No, I mean, Rob Lowe was caught on tape banging an underage girl.
Right.
That he didn't know was, I don't think he faced charges for it.
But I mean, again, we're at a situation where this administration says it's okay to be racist. They're hiring racists. They're pushing apartheid. They're pushing ethnic cleansing. They're pushing all these things. They're removing brown people from America. So this, again, like I said, everything that people feared, people said was going to happen during the campaign, people were saying, look, you got, like, there's how the Latino community is now blaming, well, there are a bunch of people in the Latino community that are blaming black people and asking black people to help them because they voted for Trump, and now Trump is actually sending them away. Mm-hmm. They didn't think that it was going to be them, but they were warned. He's going after anybody with melanin in their skin. He's going after them. No, I'm legal. It's not me. Well, you know what? There was a dude, they're camped out at courthouses. They're camped out at schools. They're just grabbing anybody brown. Show me your papers. Oh, well, you may be on this visa. Well, we're still sending you to Guantanamo Bay or some random place that you may be accepted by. This is where we are.
But speaking of where we are and everything like this,
that this wasn't going to happen. This is a lie.
Yeah. But speaking of that and everything, Sasha, one of the things that you have talked about before and you've proposed it, and apparently this is something that Trump is trying to do, and he's going to meet with the Jordan King, meaning the country of Jordan, in the near future and all along those lines. But they're even saying that he faces a ban as he meets with Trump, because apparently Trump is saying that he may cut aid to Jordan and Egypt if they don't take in the Ghazians. And Jordan's Abdullah is facing a tense White House meeting with Trump later on today and everything. So what is your thoughts around this notion of Jordan and Egypt and other people in that region taking in the people from Palestine? Because I know before you said that they don't want them in their countries, but apparently that's what they're saying, because they're saying that
there was a situation many years ago when Jordan actually accepted quite a large number of Palestinians, and these Palestinians, they were about to overthrow the government of Jordan, And apparently, Jordan asked Israel to help, and which Israel did, and that saved the kingdom of Jordan from Palestinians. So I'm not sure. Well, it's a different time now, and maybe they will not take as many Palestinians as they took at the first time. Because first time I thought it was like 500,000 Palestinians, or maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure, but it's quite a large number. So maybe this time they will go say for 100,000. It's more manageable, and probably maybe it will work, especially if Trump will withhold any help, foreign help to Jordan. Mm, but all the situation is it's quite scary, and it's difficult. I mean, some people applaud because this is decision of this problem once and for all, which could be. But then other people saying that Palestinians regard this land as their historical land where they lived for generations and so on, and they will not go for anything except that, let's see, if each family will get $250,000 and nice settlement conditions in one of these Arab countries, whether it's Jordan or Egypt or so on, I would be surprised that no family will accept it. I will be very surprised.
There's a kernel of a good idea in Trump's very bad idea of occupying Gaza. So Gaza has 25 miles of beach. It's a long strip of land. And Trump wants to kick out all the Gazans, even though nobody wants to take them, and build beachfront property, Trump properties. Now, all that is ridiculous bullshit. But the idea that somebody would occupy Gaza and be in charge of it for the rebuilding, you need somebody to occupy Gaza and make Hamas illegal. If you just leave the Gazans to their own devices, Hamas is still there. The Israelis killed, maybe 20,000 Hamas out of 30,000 at the beginning of the war. But then Hamas recruited another 15,000, so they still have a ton of Hamas. And you need to occupy Gaza for the rebuilding and make Hamas illegal the same way that Germany, not exactly the same way, was occupied after World War II, and Nazism was made illegal.
So just to point out that the whole idea is bad. Reason being, the wars themselves are constantly fought over the occupation of Gaza. And then to say that we should occupy Gaza again, you're only exacerbating the situation and creating more wars out of that. Yes, Hamas needs to go. There hasn't been an election in Gaza since 2004 or 2006. So that means that they've taken away elections and everything else. But to continually bomb and to continually attack and kill and maim all these individuals that are in there just in the name of we're getting rid of Hamas, that's not helping. That's only creating more people that want to join them. To talk about ethnically cleansing an area and thinking that, these other places are going to take these people and we're going to force it. That doesn't work also, because the reason that the people don't want to leave is that's their home. So deciding that, yes, only you're going to have to go. Well, okay, this is my home. This is all I have in the world. You're going to ship me off to someplace I don't even know. I've never been in my life. You're not giving me any financing or any type of money to survive in the first place. So you're basically dropping me in the desert to die. So that is a bad, bad idea. If you want to help those individuals, then we have to figure a way to reach them in a different light. We have to create a situation where it's not we're going to drop bombs on you, but we're going to reach our hand to try and help you up. It's not an occupation, it's a partnership.
You are forgetting about one very important thing. The Palestinians, throughout all their time, all the history, they're saying that their main goal is to destroy Israel and kill as many Jewish people as well.
And Sasha, you're also forgetting that Netanyahu's right-wing government wants to kill and maim all the Palestinians. So you have it coming from both sides. So your argument becomes moot when, if you're for this group and they want to kill the people that you also want to kill, that doesn't make any sense. That's not helping a situation.
If you go back,
Partnership comes into play.
Partnership, it's a wonderful word. Think about Second World War. So there were Germans destroy and kill as many Englishmen and Americans as possible. Never mind Russians, which were also part of it. And so now you're talking about the friendship, how wonderful it would be for us to live together and work together and so on. But it was not possible with the Nazi Germany and these people. And besides the fact, the occupied forces in Germany did a lot of things for Germans to understand what they've done. They were taking them to concentration camps. They were working with them, and it took a generation of Germans to become different people from Nazis. So it may be a generation or maybe even two for Palestinians become normal people.
So,
you know what? Nobody
Sasha,
has that much time.
even
And
taking
the more important thing, Jadoi, let's go.
but before you move on, even
Hey,
taking
no, I'm not before. It's after I will move on.
Okay,
What I
keep
move
going.
on is on understanding that in history, the losers pay the price. And in this situation, the Palestinians are losers. They lost all the wars against Israel that they were involved. They're losers now. They've lost their homeland. It's in ruins. There is nowhere to live. They lost a lot of people. They're still clinging on to Hamas, believe it or not. So they all have to leave. They all have to go. There is no excuse for them. And by the way, Trump yesterday made a deadline.
So, Sasha,
All
let me-
the hostages must be released, okay, by Sunday.
Sasha, you're a good guy, and I want to get off the ethnically cleansing piece that you keep
Okay,
pushing.
good.
Or
Okay.
the genocide
All
piece.
it,
that you
all
keep
right.
pushing.
It's
So let me help you. Let me help you because I'm gonna take your analogy. I'm gonna take your World War II analogy. We're in a different time now, but I'll even take your analogy. Even during that time that you're talking about, well, the Germans had to change and blah blah blah. You're not giving the Palestinian people an opportunity to do that.
No,
You're already stating.
Germans
Let me finish.
millions of Germans were killed.
Sasha,
Why
let
is
me
that
finish
what
it.
you're talking about?
No, you don't understand
I got
what I'm
it.
saying.
Very good. Well,
You're not understanding because you're not listening.
You need
You're not listening. One
the
mouth, 2 years.
Germans-
One mouth, 2 years. Let me finish.
Germans
One
were
mouth, 2 years.
in
One mouth, 2
millions.
years. Let me finish, Sasha.
2 million German women were raped. Germans pay their price. Now it's Palestinians' time to pay the price. They're losers. They have to pay.
Sasha. So again, you're not giving the Palestinian people an opportunity to change. Again,
They're
last
losers. No opportunities for losers. Losers go away.
So
Okay?
again,
That's the rule.
Hold on a second, Sasha. And just help me. Hold on a second. Just really quickly, one thing I was going to bring up earlier, and I think I brought up in past shows and everything. Sasha, to your concept and everything, if you look at, like, even we were talking about South Africa earlier, if you look at the ANC and everything, there were some people that considered them terrorists and everything. There is a famous quote, I can't remember who said it, maybe Jatovi can help me, or Kim, but it is this notion that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, and all along those lines. So even that kind of conversation in that sense is different, because like I said, there are people in the Middle East that probably consider some of these people that we are calling terrorists to, in their mind, being freedom fighters, which is part of the reason that they are able to, as Rick said, recruit people and all along those lines. So I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to just eradicate an entire people and all along those lines, but that's just my thoughts and everything.
Well, I have a question for Sasha.
Kim, you're on mute.
I think Rick has something he wants
Yeah, I have
to
a
say,
question,
and I'd
which is Netanyahu was supposed to go away at the end of the war. We now have a ceasefire. Is Netanyahu in any danger of being kicked out of power?
Not at all. Not at all. This is a ceasefire. It's not the end of the war. And in even that ceasefire, I think it's not going to last that long because by Saturday, Hamas has to free all the hostages. Okay, there are about 70 hostages are still in. It's believed that half of them are still alive, maybe much less than that. And even those who are alive, they're in, if you remember movies about Second World War, like Schindler's List, and you have idea how people look in concentration camp. That's how these hostages look now. So even half of them are probably dead, and half of them are half dead. That doesn't help a lot to the matter. So we'll see what's happened by Saturday.
So the ceasefire is over with because of what Trump said about ethnically cleansing. Again, when we talk about these individuals uprooting these individuals and ethnically cleansing the area of Muslims, and remember, the other nations that you want to put them to, you're already telling them that you want to ethnically cleanse the area in the name of what? In the name of this one nation. So now you're creating more enemies and putting a bigger target on Israel's back as well. So again, unless you're going to do a partnership with the nations around, as well as the people of Palestine or the Palestinian people and the people of the West Bank and Gaza, unless you're going to actually try and work with them, again, we're still going to steadily have the wars. The reason the wars happened was because of the occupation. These people, as they told you, they want their place. And you're saying, no, I want it because I'm going to make money out of it.
Not say what they want.
You keep calling them losers.
Losers are out.
It's
so I think the only thing I would like to speak a little bit of what I believe is happening here. And, you know, I predicted this over a year ago that Trump just wants the Gaza Strip for his towers and his vacation places and his own investment. This has nothing to do with anyone's rights or, you know, giving something to one person and not the other. And let me remind people of the main rule of God. When you allow the rights to be taken away from anyone because of your own personal belief, when it comes time for your rights to be protected, it won't be there. Okay, so I think the wars need to end. I think humanity needs to sit down and say, we're all one human under God and learn to be kind again. But I don't think that that's going to happen. But I think all of this and all of this inner fighting is Trump's way to get everyone stirred up, and he's going to cakewalk in and he's going to take all of that land for himself. It will not belong to anyone but Trump Towers. That's what I predicted this over a year ago. You can go back and look at some of our reels from over a year ago. And I said this. Yes, Rick.
Kim, just really quickly, and I'm going to get off this topic just for a hot second because we only got a few more minutes to go. I'm hoping that Sasha will talk about the uranium deal that is out there, or the rare earth deal on his show, which is coming up at 11 o'clock and all along those lines. But I had a question for you because we are here in North Carolina and there's a major industry that was going to have their funding cut and everything like that, but apparently the judges have blocked some of that and everything. So they are blocking the slashing of NIH funding because 22 states, and I'm thinking North Carolina being one of them, since it is a major pharmaceutical company, is stopped for right now. So I just wanted your take, because I know you were involved in the engineering space and have worked at State, which has got some ties to the pharmaceutical industry around this notion of NIH funding being cut. And will this judge blocking hold up, or are we just going to lose some funding from a major industry, even though it can be a major lobby as well?
Well, I'm not particularly a big fan of major pharma to begin with. Okay. So personally, I think that we need to take a look at why they're doing it. Mm-hmm. I think things need to be analyzed as to why. No, I think this knee-jerking, reckless havoc going on out there needs to stop. I think it's nothing but a smokescreen covering up other things that they are doing so that we don't see it. They're causing inner fighting between everyone. But I think what needs to really be happening is true evaluations. We've got a bunch of madmen running around with swords. To me, it reminds me of the story of a chicken running around with his head cut off. And that's what Trump looks like to me. Oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And then you can knee jerk only so much, and you're going to have nothing but casualties. And we saw the effect of those casualties during COVID with knee jerking, reckless leadership. Yes, Rick.
This story just broke. Steve Bannon pleads guilty in border wall fraud case, avoids jail time. So what happened during Trump's first administration? Steve Bannon, his advisor, says, send me your money, people, and we will use that money to build the wall. People sent him millions of bucks. He just took the money. He didn't build jack shit. Well, but now he's pled guilty on one of the charges, but will not serve jail time. And I probably won't pay a fine either. I guess what the court is thinking is that whatever penalty they gave Bannon, Trump would just pardon him.
He would pardon him. Because he pardoned that other person the other day, too, right. The person who had 14 years in prison. And he got him out in the last term, and he just gave him a pardon. And he was guilty of some very serious crimes. So, yeah, it's becoming a criminal space, leadership space. Trump is definitely building his army, but all I got to say is there's no loyalty among the band of thieves, and they will start interfighting amongst each other. And
speaking of loyalty among thieves, hold on a second. Speaking of loyalty among thieves, Jan was joining us and everything. He finally got in. I know one of the things he was interested in talking about, and hopefully we can talk about it tomorrow as well, is what you've talked about several times, Kim, which is this notion of the funding that was out there in terms of like that law that was out there and everything, because he just discovered that same conversation. But Jan, if you want to jump into the conversation of what you were talking to me about, which I told you Kim had already told me about.
I don't know that we can hear. Can't hear. You're muted somehow.
Yeah, we must be having the mic set up and everything.
Well, we'll have him set up. If he logs in early tomorrow, Mark, right. Help him set up his camera. We do this all the time. Yeah. We go a day ahead of time setting everybody's cameras up for Irene's show, and it has paid off tremendously. Every once in a while we get a glitch, but for the most part, by training everyone and getting them on a day ahead of time, or just, before the show starts, we set up the cameras and mics for guests, and it makes a big difference. But, there's a lot going on. But what I think people need to do is stop being so knee-jerking about their decision-making, about what's happening, and really take a look at what's going on, because these politicians are really good about throwing the smoke bombs out there and diverting your attention over this way while they're doing something over here. Again, I have asked the question 4 or 5 times, why didn't he release the Epstein files or even the Diddy files? You do the RFK, JFK, MLK, but you don't do those. I mean, come on, we live in the here and now and today. And it's very important for me to know who exactly was involved with all of that today. All the other stuff is just history, and it's nothing we can change or fix.
Yeah, we're going to do Sasha's show really quickly.
Hold on, one more thing let's finish up on Bannon real quick. So his conditional discharge is he's for the next 3 years, Bannon is not allowed to fundraise for a charity. I guess he has to keep his nose clean for 3 years. And he's not allowed to use the data he got from the suckers who originally gave money for him.
Like he's going to delete it.
And also that he's pled guilty. He's out there saying that the new attorney general needs to prosecute the state attorney generals who tried to prosecute Trump.
So just really, hold on a second, because I know we ran it down. Just for your sake, Kim, what Jan wanted to talk about is that law that you always talk about that expired in 2025, because he did some research when he was out campaigning and found that same law that you've been talking about for a while. So that's what he wanted to.
It's not a new law. People are just ignorant, and they're been again smoke screened, because every time I said anything about it, Mr. Wonderful on our show, every time he was on, kept going, "No, Kim, you're wrong, because that was the corporate law." There were 2. He was very smart. He gave them both 40%. that kind of blindsided everyone. And so it was easy for the wealthy people to sit there and go, oh no, that was for this. No, he did it for the individuals who earn over $400,000 a year. Now, the tax cut law for corporations, that was intended for them to purchase more equipment for their companies and assets in order to hire more middle class. But what they did was they took the money, invested it, fired all the middle class, and promoted more $400,000 a year employees. And they admitted it in the conferences. They said, yeah, that's what we did. So sue us. You know, they don't care. They don't care. They misused the funds. They should have been held accountable. Instead, Trump is going to, you know, promote them with the law continuing. So, but we have to go. Yeah, what?
Oh, I was going to say, I think we didn't get a chance to even talk about the worst thing that happened, because the banning stuff, that's also smokescreen, because really what he cut today out of the education department, $881 million from the education department. So that means
asking, where are the kids going to go to school? So that's what I'd like to know. Where is the mass majority of the children who need to go to school? But I think he thinks farming them out to the farms where we cut all of the people to grow our food. But we'll have that conversation tomorrow. That's hopefully where Mark will pick up. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your day. It might not be one to enjoy tomorrow, the way this United States is going. Meanwhile, stay smart, stay healthy so that you can stay wealthy, and do the math before you make any major decisions. Please do the math. And I don't know why Mark, okay, there we go.